I wonder if I should cancel. I'm going to change my internet. We might get disconnected for.
Okay.
See. Let's try this. I guess it didn't disconnect us. I was really surprised there. Okay. Welcome to Healthy Fits Podcast. I am Dr. Kellaprice, and I'm here with Chaeli Mycroft today, all the way from South Africa. Welcome. Thank you for joining me today.
Thank you for having me. I'm really excited to be here with you.
I am really excited to be here with you as well. I was reading over your bio, and you've done some really impressive things. You have cerebral palsy, and some people may not be familiar with that. For those of our viewers that don't know this condition, tell us what it is.
Yeah. So I have CP. Cerebral palsy is a very broad diagnosis. So basically, cerebral palsy is about a lack of oxygen to the brain, and depending on how long your brain was deprived of oxygen or where the damage happened, that manifests your disability in different ways. So for me, my version of CP involves all of my limbs. I'm not able to walk independently, so I use a motorized wheelchair to get around. But for other people, it's very different. So yeah, basically, my body and my muscles do not listen to what my brain is telling it to do most of the time.
That can be very frustrating, I'm sure. So what does your daily life look like as someone with cerebral palsy?
You know, this is something that I think I really like to challenge the idea that my life is vastly different from anybody who's non-disabled. I do very normal things. Um, I go to university, like I see my friends, well not right now because COVID-19, but I do everything that anybody else my age is doing. I just have to sometimes do it a little differently, and sometimes we have a little bit more logistical planning that goes into what we're doing, but it doesn't mean that we can't still do what we want.
And I
Yeah.
understand you have a service dog to help you. What is your service dog's role in your daily life, and how does the dog
Yeah.
help you?
So her name is Eden. She's really cute. She's 7 years old now, and she's here to help me with things that people take for granted. It's the little things like opening and closing doors and doing light switches and lift buttons. Um, she can, if I drop things, I'm pretty clumsy, so I drop things all the time. Um, so she can pick them up and bring them back to me. Um, she can make a scene. She likes making a scene and using her voice. So if I'm there on help and I can't do anything, she can bark and draw attention to ourselves. She's also kind of gained some on-the-job training for like emotional support. It's not her job description, but she deals pretty well with anxiety and panic attacks of like my own, but also she does it for the people around me as well. So she's pretty cool.
I'm sure. I have a pet therapy dog, Lucy, that her dog job is just to give people love and allow them to love on her. And it's
Yeah,
amazing to see how it can relax people around you. I think sometimes people, when they interact with someone that has a disability, even if, especially if they don't know you specifically and what you're capable of, sometimes they don't know how to act, and they do get
yeah,
certainly anxious about the
yeah.
situation.
She
How,
also brings.
yeah, how has the coronavirus impacted your life as someone um, who has a disability and maybe is in more of a high risk group?
Yeah, so I found out that cerebral palsy is is a vulnerability, and I freaked out for a good 2 weeks about it. Um, we've been in lockdown now for I don't know like 87 days or something for me. Um, so I'm not going anywhere. It's an interesting challenge because um, as somebody who is super outgoing and I love people and I need people, like other people, not just the people that I live with. Um, it's been a challenge, and I think I started off being super anxious about everything, and then I got into a zone of it's fine, I'm inside, everyone's social distancing, it's cool. Um, and then I got anxiety about actually going outside. Um, so it's been a bit of a roller coaster. I think my disability makes me vulnerable, but then I have moments where I think about the fact that I climbed a mountain and my lung capacity was fine for that. So I don't know. It's been a journey, I guess, and we're still figuring it out.
I think for all of us, it's been a journey experiencing a new way of living with restrictions or different protocols.
Yeah,
Definitely been a challenge for people to stay positive given these changes in their life. As someone with
yeah.
cerebral palsy, thinking about getting a lifelong diagnosis or impact to your life, how do you stay positive on a daily basis?
Um, I don't always. I think it's important to recognize that I'm not like a positivity station that people check into to be like, Katie, motivate me. I think if there are days where I don't want to do things and I'm not excited about life. I just don't, yeah. So on those days, it's important to embrace the fact that you're not super positive, but I also don't want that attitude to like affect other people. So on those days, I just don't go out and I don't do stuff, and that's okay. To give yourself space to not be positive. Um, but on the positive side, I feel like because I have been disabled my entire life, this is my norm. I haven't experienced walking independently, so I don't feel like I've lost anything or like I'm missing out because I've always existed in this way. Um, so I don't have the baggage around my disability um that the world owes me something, or I just want to do what I want to do, and I've been able to build a group of people around me who support those things, people who hold me accountable for
Mhm.
the things that I'm able to do. Um, my sister's really good at that. She's so a quick story. I need help with eating sometimes, most times, and my sister, she is very much a person who keeps me grounded in my ability because she'll be like, Katie, you are entirely capable of feeding yourself, so go do that. And I think that it's important to have people like that in your life to refocus you when you're not feeling super stoked about things.
Thank you for that honesty.
Yeah,
I know as someone who has suffered from anxiety and depression myself,
yeah,
sometimes need someone, and usually in my case, it's my husband, to help
yeah,
uh, lift me up or encourage me. But we also have to be able to do things for ourselves to transition from those negative thoughts or feelings that creep into our brain that are
yeah,
bad for our mental health and create a more positive space, because otherwise it can just consume you and build, and nobody wants to be around that, and that's certainly not good for your health or overall outlook.
yeah. We have a 3-minute rule for things that are getting to us. So it's important to give yourself time to freak out about things and not be okay with things. But you also need to, at some point, say, okay, I'm not super amped about this, but I'm going to make a plan around it. And this is what my plan is. So I think we found a good balance between those two things most of the time.
3 minutes isn't very long to be
Yeah, you
be
can
negative.
you can add minutes though. If you need to, you can add them. But like it's just about having like a an awareness that you're taking the time to do that. Yeah.
Now, being from South Africa, this is a place that I've never been. I would love to come to South Africa.
Yeah, you should
It's on my
come
list.
when
How
they're open borders.
how does the
Yeah.
level of care and treatment for someone with cerebral palsy compare to other parts of the world?
So that's kind of tricky for me to answer because I only know our standard. Um, but I think obviously there's work to be done. Accessing things like therapy, accessing medical care, equitable medical care, is a challenge. Um, I think our and it's not just a cerebral palsy thing. I think anybody with a disability, it's challenging to get the support that you need. Um, I think one of the biggest challenges that we have to overcome is transport. People can't get around. That is a huge issue. Our public transport system is less than ideal for disabled people. Um, you gotta be brave to take those. To get on the trains and things, you have to be brave to figure it out. You have to be willing to hustle. And I think that that's a big challenge as a disabled person, is having the resilience to do what you need to do when you don't have the resources or the support to do that easily. Um, but we have to. I think as an activist, I'm always gonna be finding the positive in it. I think um, we live in a phenomenal country, and I think there's so much innovation that we have that we can use and share with other people. But obviously, um, it would be really great if we can access things. I think that is the biggest challenge, is just accessing the different things. I know for myself, I look at really cool like assistive devices um, that I don't necessarily need, but I like looking at them and seeing all these cool things like the abilities expo and things. We don't have those kinds of platforms where you can share those things. It's very difficult to get things from other places. It's expensive to be a disabled person. Um, but that's kind of just that's what we have to work with, and I think there's always a way to build the system into what it can be and what it should be.
And I think when you don't have what is available, or you envision, or you have these goals, it does make you more resilient. Figuring out a way to make
Yeah,
things happen and propel progress
yeah,
and enable you to reach those specific goals makes
yeah,
a lot of people who have a disability more resilient, because they have to be innovative with how they get things done, or they have these specific goals and they really set themselves out to keep their eye on that prize and figure out how to get there from where
yeah,
they're at, which is really cool. And one of those goals that I read about that you had was to summit Mount Kilimanjaro. And I am so jelly about this. I read that
Yeah.
you're the first female quadriplegic to summit Mount Kilimanjaro, and I am so impressed. I've always wanted to go on a mountain climbing excursion,
Yeah.
whether it's Kilimanjaro or Everest. How
Yeah.
did this come about, and what preparations did you have? Tell me all about this
Um,
excursion.
yeah. So to be honest, we were drinking and we were joking about having all these adventures, and so we came up with this whole list of like, it would be so cool if we did this and this and this and this and this. And Kilimanjaro was on that list. And we that was just like a throwaway comment, and it took us from that conversation to us actually being on the mountain was 4 years. Um, and we let it sit there for a while, like in the universe, and things occurred, and people connected with us. Adam, who ended up going with me, he came to our organization and said, I want to climb this mountain to support the Chaeli campaign. And my mom said to him, that's really interesting because Chaeli was thinking about climbing this mountain. And then it became a real thing that we were doing. Um, I That mountain is an incredible place. I think everybody should go there and experience her, because I it's a profound experience, and it's a place that really forces you to reflect on things and your position in the world. When you are on a mountain, you're not the boss. Like the mountain is the boss. Um, and it was amazing to see the the way that everybody came together to make that successful. Because we had a team of 9, um, but we actually had a team of about 50 with all the porters and all the guides and the kitchen people, and it was phenomenal. I learned to appreciate the fact that I like breathing. Breathing is important. I I learned how to communicate better because I went to that mountain with one person, my friend Taylor, and he'd known me the longest, and he'd known me for like 2 years. And we'd never like gone on a trip together. It was very much a learning experience, um, for all of us. Um, and I remember when we were on the mountain and we were heading towards summit, and it was, I don't know, like 2 a.m. or something. And I remember thinking that in that moment, I was really not having a great time. But it's hot up there. It's minus 15 degrees Celsius. I don't know what that is in Fahrenheit, but it's cold. I had 9 layers of clothing on and still freezing. Um, I I remember thinking that I didn't want to be there. And I remember thinking, how many people are going to notice if I pass out right now? Because I'm so tired and it's so freezing. But at the same time of having all of those negative thoughts, we knew that people were watching. We knew that we were climbing for more than just ourselves. we were climbing to prove the point that anybody who is determined enough and who has the right people around them, you can achieve really cool things. And I cried a lot on that mountain. I'm okay with it. We all cried a lot. I remember when we got to the top, we were there for like 20 minutes or something. I I lost my eyelashes on the mountain because when I cried, the tears got on the eyelashes and then froze, and then
Oh
they
my
fell.
goodness.
So, so when we got back to Cape Town, people were like, "Interesting."
Magnetic eyelashes. They're the bomb,
I'm,
right?
I'm gonna look into those. And it was one thing that we forgot about was that you get to the top and you summit and you're like, "Woo, go us!" Then you have to come down again. Like, nobody speaks about descending a mountain. Everyone just focuses on getting to the top, and getting down is a journey in itself. And I feel like our team connected a lot on the descent, because every so often you look at your team members and you're like, we just did that. What is happening? Like, we just did something insane, and like we were fine. And I think one of the best things, I really like shocking people with ability. And so when we were on our way down and there were other people going up, they would see me in my wheelchair and say things like, "Did you go all the way to the top of this mountain?" And we looked at them like, "Yeah, why are you here? That's why we're here." And I think we changed a lot of mindsets on that mountain, and also just through that experience, we were able to prove what our ethos is and what we want to share with the world. And I'm so grateful that we had that opportunity, and I'm very keen to find something new now, to take a new adventure. I'm not sure what that will be. Um, so anybody that has suggestions, like, send those through, because I want to go on another adventure. So
Sounds amazing. I know when I set out to do an ultra race or a triathlon, I'm an Ironman, there's a lot. Yes, it has physical demands on your body, but it's the mental piece that I think
yeah,
is the hardest, because your mind gets in this negative cycle, and you have a lot of time to think about things that are going around in your brain. So you really have to tell your brain, like, shut up, brain.
like, you're
I'm
listening.
doing this.
Yeah, I think it's also, I have that, like, a lot of people question my athleticism, because I do all of these things in a wheelchair, and my argument is that your mind is also a muscle, and you have to concentrate on all the muscles that you are using. And my body it works differently. So when I'm running, I'm not just sitting. I'm bracing, I'm preparing, I'm keeping my core going. People don't see all of that effort because it's happening without me moving my legs. Um, and that's frustrating. But I think what I really like is, I can be quite spicy and sassy, and I have comebacks for days, and when people say things to me, they don't necessarily expect me to respond, and when I do, they don't really know what to do with that information. I and that's interesting to me. I've learned in our running ultramarathons that um, it takes a second for the respect to reach me. So when we start races, people will look at my partners who are pushing me and they'll say, "Good luck." And then they look at me and they say, "Enjoy." Like, I'm just here to have a good time. And that frustrates me. But when we get into like kilometer 68 or something, and I'm still very much active in that process, people are like, "Okay, good job, girl. Like, we see you." And I think it's just about showing up consistently so that people realize that we're here and we take ourselves seriously. And so you need to. Yeah.
And that brings me into your dancing. I love
Yeah.
to dance, and I know you love to dance, and that you're a wheelchair dancer. And I thought that was so cool. I was a professional dancer in college and
Yeah.
also took ballet and modern dance. And I teach a couple of dance programs, including Groove It Fit. I love moving to music. And I actually watched a video of you on YouTube.
Yeah.
I put the link in the event page so people could check it out, doing a Latin American dance for a Woman Humanities Festival. I'd imagine it was interesting and challenging maybe to find a teacher that to prepare for this. Tell me a little bit about that experience.
Yeah. So I perform a Latin American dance, and I have an able-bodied partner. His name is Damien. He's a very strong dude, and we I started dancing when I was 11, and it just kind of we we met this. I think my mom met another mom who suggested it, and um we found that this Bullock, who was the coach in Cape Town, and it's very um difficult to find people who are willing to put the energy and the time into supporting disabled sport. And so our organization has also started our own dance team, I guess, and people of all different disabilities come and dance with us, and it's you can do it socially, but we also do it competitively, and I think that that's an important aspect, to not just assume that we're just here to do it for fun. Like, disabled people are competitive too. And like, we need a space to show our competitiveness as well. And so myself and my partner Damien, we coach and guide our dancers. And I think it's interesting that we have my perspective as a disabled person sharing information, and also Damien as an able-bodied person. And we get the best of both. I think the one thing that's really great about wheelchair dance that you don't necessarily get as an able-bodied dancer. Maybe I'm biased, but we have so many things that work against us, and so what we embrace in our training and in our rehearsals is that you have to use what you've got. And if you have no ability to move your body, but you have a really good control of your face and like your eyes, we're gonna use that, and we're gonna show people that just because your body doesn't work the way everybody expects it to doesn't mean that you can't fully own a space through dance and through using the abilities that you do have.
I thought it was
Yeah.
really cool in the dance, the finite movements that you did in the wheelchair. I was thinking to myself, wow, that must have taken a lot of practice. The choreography in the wheelchair was really cool to watch on screen. And as you mentioned, the facial expressions, it was a Latin American dance. It was very sensual.
You know, that's also a thing. Like, disabled people can be sexy. Like, we can be what everybody else is as well. And we can use our disabilities in different ways to make things cool and great and smooth. And there's certain things that you can do with a wheelchair that you can't do as an able-bodied dancer. It's just not possible. You can be like, you can glide and you can be smooth, and you don't have those same challenges that you have as an able-bodied dancer. But I also think that people don't recognize or realize the amount of work that's going into somebody dancing in a wheelchair, because we're not only trying to do the choreography and getting that right, we're also combating our own bodies, and we're working against what our bodies want to do and getting them to do what we want them to do. Did that make sense?
Yes, that
Okay.
mind exercise to control the body create
Yeah.
because you have those neural connections that make your hands and your feet and everything
Yeah.
do what you want them to do, whether you're exercising or just moving through day-to-day life. And if you don't practice those movements, your body's not going to have that synapses in the brain to make that connection and do that. So that's really cool.
And my whole thing around that is that your mind is such a powerful tool that our bodies have, and the fact that if you think that you're sitting up taller, then that projects into how you sit, and if you extend your arm further in your mind, that actually does happen in your body. And so I'm very much a believer in like mind over matter, and that you can actually control things even if it's like in a tiny way that's not always visible. You can feel it in yourself that's happening.
It's really cool. You
Yeah.
are into all kinds of fitness. You're an adaptive cyclist and runner. And some people might be wondering how someone in a wheelchair runs. You started to tell us about your running experience. How does this work? And what was your favorite race experience?
Okay. So um I'm a wheelchair assisted athlete. So I don't have the upper body strength or the stability, if we're being honest, to to propel myself in like a racing chair. So I don't do that. I have running partners who push my wheelchair, but I still have to balance and do all of those things to stay in the wheelchair. That's sometimes challenging when you're going at pace. I personally don't really like the shorter races. Um, I I like the challenge of the endurance races. So I like the marathons and the ultra marathons, and I want to spend a good few hours out on the road because I feel like for me, I want to challenge my whole body, and in my experience, that doesn't happen for me when I do like a 5K. Um, Also for me, it's a lot of energy and a lot of logistics to organize yourself and your team to get to a race. So I want to get the hours in there. I think it's hard to say what my favorite race is. Comrade's Marathon is always phenomenal. It's the biggest ultra marathon in South Africa, the ultimate human race, they call it.
Oh, I'll have to check that one out.
Yes, you must come do it with me next year.
I
And
think
it's
I would need some extra training if I'm pushing someone.
you can just come be a support runner. We can make that happen. And I really love that race. I cry a lot in that race because it's far. It's like it's a long day. But every time you do it, there are magical things that happen. There are people that I met in my first comrades who I meet every year at the comrades, only at the comrades. Out of 19,000 people, you see this one human that you haven't seen in a year. That's
Isn't that
incredible.
crazy when that happens? That happened to me last year at a race. 25,000 people, and I'm running a mile 20, and I see someone calls my name, and I look back, and it's someone that I haven't seen in 5 years, right?
Yeah, and it's insane how the running community can bring people together. I think comrades is especially important to me because we had to fight for our right to participate in that race. So we are very lucky here in South Africa that we have a really great constitution in terms of human rights and non-discrimination, and so we we took the rule of no wheelchairs allowed um, to task, and year 1 and 2 were interesting, and it takes time for people to kind of to get on board with stuff. And we're in year 5 now. This year it's not happening because COVID, so they've gone virtual. But they're very much on board now, and people have changed the way that they speak about us on the road. In the first couple years, it was, whoa, there's a wheelchair here. What is happening? How are you here? Are you here? Um, and now people are very much more, I'm so happy that we get to share the road with you. Having this experience with you is awesome. So sometimes you just have to stick it out, and you have to run with the haters sometimes to get them to move over to a little bit more of a supportive, positive space.
I think that's a great lesson for even what's happening in America right now to overcome discrimination and become unified. Sometimes you have to fight against the grain and stand up for what you believe in the right way. standing up for yourself and showing people in a positive way that you belong there just as much as them. And I can tell you some of my race experiences, one of my favorite races to run is the Marine Corps Marathon, because there are so many athletes that are running with the prosthetic legs. The first year I ran the marathon, I was running and I noticed this gentleman scoot by me on a skateboard, and I was just in awe because this guy had no legs and he had no arms, and he was on a skateboard, and he he beat me in that marathon. And I followed him for a couple miles, and I was just in awe on how he was making his body move to navigate the terrible roads and streets of Washington, D.C. for the marathon on the skateboard, and the dedication and the persistence and the mental fortitude that it must have taken to be able to do that race. And it was so inspiring for me as an able-bodied person. Sometimes we go through races and you second guess yourself, like on some of these ultras, and you're going up this hill and you think, why did I sign up for this? This is terrible and I don't want to do this. And then you see someone like that who is making it happen and totally rocking it, and it's just so inspiring, and it helps keep you going and think, gosh, I don't have anything to complain about because I have my arms and my legs, and I'm going to keep going, and I'm going to finish this race strong because this person has inspired me.
We have an sort of agreement in our team that every team member gets one moment per race to be like, this is stupid. I don't like this. I don't want to be here. and my wheelchair is also a team member, so the wheelchair gets one too. But it's interesting to see how people respond to how my teammates work with me, because I remember we were doing Two Oceans marathon, the ultra, and it was a hard day, and my back was hurting and my knee was hurting, and I was grumpy about the fact that the road had a weird camber that was making me do way more work than I wanted to be doing. And I was just like overall grumpy for a good like 5Ks. And my teammates, they're just like, Katie, are you taking your moment now? And I'm like, yes, thank you. And then they leave me alone for however long that moment takes. And then you move on and you move forward and you keep going. I think what people don't always understand is that every runner has their wall in a race. I have those too. My wall is at 26Ks. Other people are like, so it's if you leave me alone for that kilometer, I'm fine. But it's important to recognize that those things exist for me as well. Everything that exists for an able-bodied runner, all the challenges that exist for me as well. I just have it interpreted differently in my body and in my experience of the races.
You've certainly overcome a number of obstacles to create a fun life full of experiences. How would you encourage others to learn from you to be resilient?
I think the the biggest thing is that it's okay to be scared to do stuff, but then do it anyway. And that's not like let's go be reckless and jump off of buildings and things. That's like every time we start the comrades, or like when we got to the bottom of Kilimanjaro, I remember sitting there being like, what are we about to do? This is not a good idea. And there are those moments of panic and anxiety and hysteria, but that's okay because that's normal to have those experiences and those responses. It's just about how you channel those into a positive thing and into channel yourself into a positive space of thinking about what you're about to do, because that's how we get through things.
Definitely. Those big goals that in the pit of your stomach make you kind of sick, those are the ones you want to go after. It's like that quote, what if I fall? Oh, my darling, what if you fly? You never know until you put yourself out there and you try. I know I've been a long-time supporter of the Special Olympics program with my company Healthy Fit, and I've supported teaching kids of all socioeconomic backgrounds and abilities about the benefits of proper nutrition, health, and exercise to build healthy habits. And I actually had a client, a young girl in a wheelchair that I trained. I cannot tell you the excitement when I met with her for the first time and how excited she was to learn how to train with weights. The spark of excitement that she learned that she could participate in working out and exercise because she hadn't had that as something that she thought was possible. What would you tell the community about having a disability?
I think don't take it so seriously. Don't make it the biggest thing that you know about me. I think my disability is very much an important part of my life. It's important to me and my identity, but it doesn't define my entire existence. Um, and I think that's the most important thing, is that be willing to open yourself up to seeing deeper than my disability.
It definitely doesn't define you as a person, and you don't want it to be like, oh, Chaeli, she's the girl in the wheelchair. No, you want them to know you as Chaeli, the fitness enthusiast or the ability activist, right?
Yeah, yeah.
In closing today, what do you want our audience to know as an ability activist?
I think that so many things. um, I think what we need in the world around disability is for people to be open and vulnerable and honest about the challenges that we face. And this is a thing for like disabled people and able-bodied people. We need to be honest about our disabilities. We need to be willing to work with people to get to a space that is more inclusive and equitable. Um, we, I feel that we have to acknowledge ignorance where it exists. We have to challenge ignorance. But we also have a responsibility to educate people, to show that, and just do stuff. Like, if you want to do stuff, go do stuff. I think we overcomplicate it a lot, that we just it's not that complicated sometimes. Sometimes you just have to go and do it, like Nike, and just do it. And don't have like other people placing limitations on you. Don't place the limitations on yourself. I there's so many things that I've learned through my life, and especially through fitness and building the community of fitness that I have around me. There's so many lessons that you can learn in every single moment. It's about opening your eyes and your mind and your heart to taking in those lessons and using them when you go forward into the active life that you want to lead.
That's amazing. Thank you so much for joining me today. Definitely send me information about that race. I would love to come and visit you. I appreciate you
right now
for being on this show. I appreciate you. I appreciate your positive outlook, your resiliency, and the lessons that we can all take from your great example. Thanks again for watching. We'll see you next time.